Beautiful. All right, everybody, welcome, fellow Jaws fanatics. We're on the Shark is Broken fan page. I'm your host, Paulie Christine, and we really do have the honor and pleasure of being with director Guy Masterson. And believe me, we did not do this before. This is our first time doing this. So, Guy,
Yeah.
thank you so much for your patience and being on with
My
us.
pleasure. My pleasure. It's always good to do. Yeah.
So we were just talking before this, and Guy does other than being a fantastic director, he also is an actor, and he does one man shows, and he did a Christmas Carol over the holidays, and that is pretty grueling. How many characters is that?
Oh, that one was about, I would say about 25 characters. Under Milk Wood, which I'm doing tomorrow night in Wales, is officially 69, but only a few of them only pop up for one or two lines.
Wow! And what's the
Um,
premise?
well, Under Milk Wood is written by Dylan Thomas, who actually made his name in New York in 1950, well, in the 50s. It was a genius Welsh poet that Richard Burton championed. And his masterpiece is a thing called Under Milk Wood, which is a day in the life of a sleepy Welsh fishing village. And the first ever reading of it was at the 97th Street Y
Okay.
in 1953.
Wow.
And he died soon after that.
Wow.
Yeah, he's legendary.
Now,
And I do it.
for a layman, that would be an obscure thing. Is that there's just
Yeah,
something that you like that you grab upon and you say, well, this is my niche and I can make something out of it?
um, it's it's one of the great pieces of English literature. It's very poetic. It's very funny. And and when it's never before been done by one person. So I did it in 1993 when I first did it, and it hit and it took me around the world, and that's how my career really took off. I did a lot of TV up to that point, and actually just fell in love with the solo performance, and that's how I met artists such as Ian Shaw
Hmm.
and
I'm sorry, you froze up again. I don't know if it's on my end or your end.
oh, I
Yeah,
don't.
you said you first met it when you first met Ian Shaw.
Yes, I met Ian Shaw in 30 years ago now. It's 25 years ago, I think. Um, when I was touring my work, and he was the boyfriend of one of my dearest friends, and I got to know him, and we talked about his dad and my uncle, who was also an actor, quite well known British actor,
Mr. Richard Byrne. I mean, you can praise that and say who it is. I mean, come on now.
and Richard Burton, yeah, and
Yes.
both of whom had alcohol issues, problems, and and then in 2018 he called me and said, "Would I be interested in this project?" And I said, and um, and directed it, and then sort of nurtured it into the West End with the company and Sonia Friedman, the big phenomenal British producer, took it into the West End, and then we came to Toronto, and then we came to Broadway.
So getting into Ed Fringe, you said before Duncan was your set designer, right? And created the
Duncan was
over.
in the play. We've all been
Before
friends.
that, Duncan was the actor.
Yes, but he was also always going to design the set because he has a
Okay.
set shop. He creates sets. That's one of his side hustles. And so he played Scheider in the first performance. He's
And
a
were there
brilliant.
other guys previous? Were there auditions, or was Duncan the guy? And Liam
No,
was Dreyfus
the
also.
only person that we auditioned was Liam.
Okay.
We auditioned a couple of them, but Liam won hands down, and he was a Brighton boy, so it was very easy for us to work in Brighton with him. And he was just fabulous when he did Dreyfus. So it was a bit of a dream team really, and but Duncan couldn't do the West End because he had aging parents and just not enough time to do it. So
And
we
then you got
recast.
Dimitri for that.
We got
So
Dimitri,
did you also
and
there was an open call for that, or was Dimitri the guy all along?
no, we had an open call for that, and
Okay,
we and Dimitri was picked, and then Dimitri came with us all to Toronto.
right.
But sadly for Dimitri and Liam, we had to use New York actors
That
when we
whole
brought
union thing.
Broadway. It's a union thing. It's more than that, really. It's you know, it's the whole the actors that we used had to be known to American audiences and
Right.
particularly Broadway audiences. The risk of doing it on Broadway is so huge, so big, that
So the
one of
same thing now. I mean, I don't want to, we can fast forward to it, but was Alex audition or Alex Brightman the guy? Was Colin audition or was Colin the guy? Did it work out that way also?
oh, I don't know how much time we lost there, but you froze for a second.
Okay,
Was
so
Alex the guy?
oh well, did you catch me? I said was Alex Brightman the guy, or was he
Yes.
audition?
Well,
Okay,
no, we auditioned several.
also
Yeah, and Alex won that role, and Colin Donald won Scheider.
right. And Alex was a big to do in Broadway as it is. He did School of Rock. He just came
Yes,
off Beetlejuice. So he was
yes,
a known name and had a big fan base also.
yes, that's true. But I don't work with actors I've not met or worked in the audition process with. You know, I was told all about the lads' reputations, but everybody we saw had a Broadway resume.
Right.
So, you know, but I did know about Alex's specific credits and Tony nominations, and it was wonderful that he walked in and he was perfect for the role. So, it was a no-brainer, really.
Now, with getting back to Ed Fringe, now it's 2019.
Yeah.
It was a tight 60 minutes then, right?
No, it was 70,
Oh,
70, it
okay.
was 75 minutes.
Because
He left out one
it
scene.
got to be 90
Mm.
when did it get to be 90 at the West End or did it get to be 90 in Canada?
95 it was.
Okay.
We added one more scene, which was what we call the hyperventilation scene, where Dreyfus has his moment, and I then added three more what we call the interludes, which was intermittently between some of the longer scenes. We had the actors separate on the boat and not speak, so there was no intense arguing for 90 minutes or conversations for 90 minutes. There's only so much you can do in a space that small with three actors. And you find yourself repeating the blocking and all of that kind of thing. So my job was to keep it as varied as possible, that there was a reason for every single move, and make sure that the scenes each had a different arc and be as interesting as possible for the audience. So those interludes we used to just give the audience a breather.
Right. And that was like the
And
rainstorm. One part was a breather.
that's right. Well, it was kind of a breather, but it was we also used it for storytelling. So the first one was used for Ian's rewriting of the Quint's rewriting of the speech,
By
Robert Shaw's
himself. Yeah.
speech. Yes, and originally I had the other two on different parts of the boat, uh, but I actually wanted just to focus that down onto Robert Shaw writing. And and then the second interlude was uh, after the what we call the drunken indie scene when Robert attempts to do the indie scene, but he has one too many drinks and can't get his words out, and then collapses.
That's when he calls Dreyfus.
Then,
He looks like a dog.
oh yeah, he says, yeah, you look like a chihuahua. Look at your furry little face.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
And And then because he mentioned Lee, I know a part you can play in Shakespeare, boy. The fool, you play fool and I'll play Lear. How about that? He says.
Awesome.
And so I decided to, instead of it being a squall, the next scene, I turned it into a massive thunderstorm. And Nina, the video designer, and Adam, the sound designer, put the boat in the eye of the storm, which was very exciting. And Ian was able to play a scene of recrimination for what had just happened. And we called it the Lear scene when there's a famous scene in King Lear by Shakespeare where King Lear goes up on the moor with the fool and rails against the storms, come winds, blow, crack your hurricanes, and he's screaming at the storm. That's what that scene was. And the final interlude that we added in Broadway, or we changed it from a sort of a relaxing, calm scene into Colin's scene, or should I say Scheider's scene, where he's told that he can take lunch, and suddenly they take away that privilege, and he just loses it. And basically, the tension of the two boys arguing and him having to play mother hen and separating them, and then gets to him, and he has his moment
Yeah.
where he's going, just get me off this boat. But of course, he's the one that is much more together than everybody else. So it's kind of like just a sort of a valve letting off.
Yeah, because technically that was his timeout, of
This
all
time out.
of everything going on, and which is funny too is that when he strips down, and like we said, we've spoken before about it, was I had the privilege of seeing this 10 times, so I saw the evolution of the play as it went along, and the first time that Colin was doing it, he brought out his lunch to
Yeah.
eat it, and it went
Which is
spoiled.
based on a true story. Which is
Hmm.
based on a true story because Scheider did have a meltdown, a sudden meltdown, which was observed by the crew. And it was the only time they ever saw him lose it when the sandwich was so bad he couldn't eat it and he melted down and said all kinds of choice words. And can't
Well,
even
well,
get a
well, even
goddamn.
the sailboat, which is great because the sailboat that before the flip out, he gave
Yeah.
the sailboat the finger.
Yes. Well, it used to be that Ian was there and he gave him the double finger. Uh, so we kept the sailboat in, but it was Colin's moment then. So it's been a really interesting evolution of the play into what makes it what makes it a play rather than a series of anecdotes about three guys in a boat. For all plays which are over sort of 70 minutes, you need the journey, an audience to go on a journey. And it's just one of those things. It doesn't have to be spelled out, but the audience needs to be on a journey so they feel like something is actually evolving, happening, and they get excited. And with us, we realized that the arc of the play was, will they get through to the end, and will the Indianapolis be done? And the jeopardy is, what would Jaws be if there was no Indianapolis? Now, in truth, we do know that after Shaw failed with the first take of Indianapolis, they were going to take all the equipment off the boat. But Robert called Spielberg and said, "Please let me have another go. I promise I'll get it right." And so they didn't take the equipment off, and actually they filmed it the next day.
Mm.
We took a bit of dramatic license and left The Crown and Glory, which is Robert Shaw's Indy speech, to the end of the play, which is, yes, he's done it. They've got to the end, and we now know uh, that Jaws was a huge success, and that is the center point of the film.
It really is.
And
You could hear a pin drop every
yeah,
time Ian did the speech. People,
yeah,
it was almost like people were like waiting for it to
leaning,
actually happen
yeah.
that way, and nailed it every single time. It's
Well,
incredible.
it was interesting because we left that deliberately to the end. So there's three narrative points in the play. There's arcs in the play. There's, sorry, two narrative arcs in the play. the scenes as they progress and the evolution of the lads as they get tireder and more frustrated and angry, and they have their moments. And then there's the evolution of the indie speech. And so we left it to the end, even after they say goodbye. And so the audience think that it's over. And sometimes you get people starting to clap, thinking that's the end of the play. And then, of course, we seek into the indie speech, and that is the crowning glory of the play. And it gives the Jaws fans what they want, and it gives the play uh, a finale.
When you it all came together and you're going to end fringe, did you know we got it, or could it be
But
a
we
little
did.
tinkered with?
It was very successful over the three performances it had in Brighton. It sold every ticket. But this is a Brighton group and everybody knows them. So there was a kind of an artificial sense that this is a really good show. I knew it was good. I could just see the way they were working together, and it was very, very intense. And and from the word go in Edinburgh, people just stood and cheered, and it was one of those. We knew that it would have a future. We didn't know what level, and it's rare that shows get plucked from the fringe and taken to the West End. It happens to about one every sort of 3 or 4 years, um, and uh, and it's rare then that it even succeeds in the West End.
Now we're
But
talking it's
this did so well.
2019 too, so we're talking. So now was it slated for 2020
It
to
was
start,
slated for 2020.
and
Yeah,
then COVID happens.
yes,
So now is
or
there a panic?
late 2019.
Is
Yeah.
there a panic with you guys? Like, is this ever going to get its footing?
Well, no, we were told that it was going to happen. It was going to be one of the first things out of the blocks for Sonia Friedman because she had lots of big productions that would take a lot more organization to get back up, and this wasn't going to take a lot because it's only a three-hander.
Right.
So it was a 4 week rehearsal period and a boat build, and so we were able to do it relatively easily, and we also knew that because it was a small show it didn't have a vast risk. So, uh, and we actually ended up being the only show of Sonia's I think she had 19 shows, and we were the only show that she had which didn't close during COVID.
Mm,
We were able to keep going, which brings me on to another thing. COVID was rampant. We had to have three understudies covering all the roles, covering two roles each. So that in every combination of actor, there would always be one person. The only downside is if four people got ill, you can have someone go on with a book once, but not more than once. But for the most part, we survived. We only had two actors out at any one time,
wow.
um, but all the understudies got to play both
Oh,
parts.
wow. And how was sales at that time? Was the audience coming?
Yes, they were coming. They were absolutely coming because you couldn't get tickets for it. It was selling out. So they came anyway when they were allowed to. And thankfully, we didn't go into a lockdown mode over that period of COVID. So we were allowed in with masks, and social distancing had been phased out. So everybody had to wear masks,
Right.
and there were very stringent requirements backstage. And actually, if you look at the play, um, there's a very specific choreography with the drinking glasses because they weren't allowed to share glasses or cups. So they're all color coded for the
Uh,
lads, and they have to drink out of their own one to make sure that there was no contamination. And yes, we were the only one of Sonia's amazing shows that didn't close, didn't go down.
and I one of my favorite scenes too is the shove haypenny scene. And them
Yeah,
actually playing the game. And
yeah,
I saw, like I said, I've seen it 10 times. So in the Golden Theater, I had one specific seat I loved that I sat in. I saw
yeah,
it in the second row, and
yeah.
opening night, I saw it on top. So I was actually
Right.
able to
You could
see
see,
them
yeah,
play the game, which was a lot of fun because in the orchestra, they could have been improvising.
that's right. And it's Yeah, it's funny. There was a company that I heard of who's doing it, and we got a call. We had auditioned the guy playing Dreyfus, and he was a friend of our Dreyfus, and he called him and said, "How are you? How are you getting your shove halfpenny to work? Because our coins don't slide on the table." Because apparently some bright spark had decided to use a soft surface table so that Shaw could stab his knife into it. And
Oh.
I thought, of all the priorities, I probably would have gone with the shove halfpenny table first.
It's a significant part. I mean, and it's minutes in the play too. It takes a while to
That's
get
absolutely right.
going. You know?
Oh, yeah, we found yeah, so they couldn't, they had to figure out something else. But each to their own. We call those directorial and design choices. But yeah, having done the show now, I've directed it now, what, 4 times. Um, and there's always new stuff happening. And even my new cast, which is up at North Shore this weekend, and is then heading off to Martha's Vineyard
Yes.
for for the Jaws 50th, and we're running for 3 weeks to a month, I think, there,
Starting July 5th.
starting on July 5th, and I think
Yes.
it goes to the mid-August. And so ticket sales are going extremely well. This company is extraordinary. Now, I was going to say, going back to my point about COVID, was, Ian's been in it from the start, and he's just concluding a huge 16-week tour over here. So he couldn't be in my company for Martha's Vineyard. And
Is that the plan?
well, it would have been lovely if he could have done it, but there was no way because we had to do it for the Jaws 50th, and the tour was happening at the same time, so there wouldn't have been time to rehearse him.
Yeah.
But because I'm directing it, he could, in theory, drop into this cast and do a single one-off performance, and it would be a really interesting idea for him to drop in and just to play it with having never worked or done a rehearsal with those guys. He probably
Right.
wouldn't. Um, but I have stuck to my most of my original blocking on Broadway and the West End, and the lads are just sensational. The big question always is, what would this be like without Ian? And I can tell you, Ian is relieved about this, that it works without him as
Right.
well. And of course, the magic of having Ian there as Robert Shaw's son and all of that, there's what we call meta in the
Right.
theatre business.
The problem, he really is the selling point to it
Well,
now.
he's not. He's not. The player's the selling point, and
Well,
he's
exactly.
funny.
Well, I'm saying to like say like major stars in Broadway shows. Like
Yeah,
like you're like the play is the play. If it's a fantastic play, you can
yeah,
stick Mo, Larry, and Curly there as long as they do the work correctly. It's
yeah,
fantastic. But
yeah. And
but the mindset of a lot of people is like if Sylvester Stallone is going to play Hamlet, and
yeah,
Joe Schmo comes in and plays Hamlet that night, I want to see Stallone. That's how the
yeah,
panic of
yeah, yeah.
Broadway people are, if anything.
Yeah, but unfortunately, the deal is that they buy tickets for the show, and it's the show that they get.
Yes.
Even if George Clooney's in the lead role, if he's taking a night off for whatever reason, there's not you can do about it.
Right. Right.
You might get a
Except
lot
get
of
tickets
room for
for
this.
another day. That's it. If anything,
I'm not even sure you can if it's sold out.
On Broadway, you can.
Oh,
They allow
right.
it. Yeah, they allow it. Yeah, people are still. It's funny. I went to go see Samuel Jackson in the piano lesson,
Right.
and I
Don't know.
took my wife, and I'm sitting there, and I'm waiting, and I'm waiting, and I'm like, when is he ever coming on? And the guy
Right.
playing the part is, and he's great. And would you believe, like I'm sorry to say, I'm one of those sticklers. I'm one of those, I paid to see. That's the reason I bought the ticket. I'm going next week to go see Othello with Denzel and Jake
Yeah.
Gyllenhaal.
Yeah.
And the same thing. If Denzel's not in it, it's kind of hard for me to say, okay, now we're going to see Cleavon Jones play Othello. It's kind of hard that way. So the same
Mm.
thing. And I went to the box office, and would you believe that they were willing to give me my money back halfway through the play during intermission?
Well, that's interesting. It wouldn't happen
Isn't
in
it?
London.
Now I
Wouldn't
mean,
happen in
we did
London.
stay because we were enjoying it because David Washington, his son is in it, and he's a fine
Yeah.
actor. Everybody else was still in it other than Samuel Jackson. But that's how it works on
Yeah. Yeah.
Broadway itself. They're
Well, I'm
very
sure
lenient that way.
with the pricing. the tickets are so expensive that there is some kind of an accommodation for that, but it makes things very tricky, I have to say. As
Yeah.
a producer myself, you can end up losing thousands, if your actor gets sick and everyone wants their money back. Tell you a funny story when my uncle took over Equus
Mm.
all those years ago, uh, from Anthony Perkins. Now he knew, and the company knew, obviously, that he was going to take over because he was going to be making the movie, but it was kept from the audience, and it was a rainy Saturday afternoon, and everyone was really grumpy, and the show was going up late, and it was stirring in the audience, and announcement came on, ladies and gentlemen, um, tonight's performance will not, and they started going, oh no, what's coming now? What's coming now? Of Martin Dysart will not be played by Anthony Perkins. Everyone starts to get up and put their coats on, really angry. Today's performance will be performed by Mr. Richard Burton. And there was,
That's a
oh my
treat.
God,
Yeah, that's a
everyone
big
sat
treat.
right down. Yeah, and
Wow.
then he took over the role and won a Tony for it.
Yeah. Unbelievable. Now, getting back to the set design for the Orca when it started
Yeah.
in Edinburgh, was it just the cabin itself?
Yeah, it was just the central cabin. And we've been using that as a rehearsal cabin because the proximity is everything in this play. And so when we rehearsed it in North Shore, we had a cabin built exactly to the dimensions of the table, so the actors could get used to it because there's all kinds of scooching going on those
Yeah. It's
around
kind of
the
a
table, and
claustrophobic feel to it.
yeah, and the actors need to feel that, and you can't just do it on a set of chairs or a sofa, you know. So the proximity is everything. Um, Also, the big difference was that in Edinburgh, I did it with lights up, lights down. So you wouldn't see the actors enter or leave. They would just appear as the lights
Oh,
came up. And that works for Fringe, that kind of works. But for the Broadway, for the West End show, Duncan and I had our dream list, basically. How do we want to see the show? And we had the amazing Nina Dunn, the videographer, and Adam Cork was doing the music and the sound. And we had a conversation about what we were going to do, and it was decided we would build a boat. Duncan was going to design the whole boat with just with the end cut off because you couldn't put the whole thing in there, which meant that we could do away with the shark chair, the fishing chair on the
yes.
Orca. Also, because it's got such a long back, the Orca, we couldn't fit it in the theatre, so we had a shark bite out of the back of it. That's what we had, and the slightly truncated nose section.
No, you had the pulpit. You have a bit of the pulpit up there.
Yeah, but of course the actors had to make entrances through the prow of the ship for the boat and up the back of the boat. So that was the design elements of it were really clever by Duncan, and and the boat really worked. And then Nina added the movement of the boat with the horizon of the video going up. So when you had a boat bump, the horizon would jump like this, and then
Yes.
the actors would bounce backwards, even though the boat was actually static. And actually, even in North Shore where we don't have the video, we will have the video for Martha's Vineyard, but we can't have it in North Shore because
They're in the round,
there's
right?
well, we're not. We're on a round stage, but we've had to put
Oh,
a
you cut it.
background
You
in
cut it. Oh, so
jet
you're in the
lighting.
half.
Yeah,
Oh,
and
okay.
so we couldn't use Nina's videos in there, but we will do in Martha's Vineyard, so we get the whole thing. And then, but even then, with the actors bouncing backwards when the launch hits the boat, you still get a sense of movement in there, which is really clever. And so the play itself, and uh, I'm really happy that the reviews are so strong from North Shore. I mean, all three actors are getting equal praise, which is terrific. And and we're adding shows now.
Right. You
So
just added today. You just put it there. You added another one more show. Was it? Yeah,
One more show today. Yeah, yeah.
that's fantastic.
So all good.
Where I'm seeing, I'm going to New Jersey May 17th, and I'm seeing the production of it there. Uh,
Oh, is that George Street
George
Theatre or something?
Playhouse.
George Playhouse. Right,
Yeah.
right.
And a friend of mine just sent me a flyer that Pittsburgh is going to be doing. So it's like spreading like wildfire now that a lot of these productions are coming out
Yeah.
all about the land for it.
It's no, it's good. We're hoping that my version will kind of be the definitive touring version. Um, and we'll be taking this beyond. I'm sure we'll be taking this beyond Martha's Vineyard and to various cities.
Now, getting out of
So,
West End, how is the trajectory to Canada? Because I tell you, I almost got a flight to UK. You know, when I first heard the origins of this going on, I'm like, I mean, I really am. I mean, here alone, and I had the privilege of the guys holding my license plate. I
yeah.
mean, I'm really am. I have the tattoo of the poster on my leg. I really am. I'm so
You
deep
didn't make it to
into it.
London.
It almost happened. Let me tell you, until I started hearing that I was coming across the pond, and then when you
Right.
went across the pond, you ended up in Canada. I'm like, oh, then they have to. I'm like, they can't do Canada and not do Broadway. And then finally, the news came out that you guys were hitting Broadway. But how is that trajectory of getting to Canada first?
Well, we loved Canada. We loved it, and it was very interesting to put it in front of an North American audience, should I say.
Mm.
Um, but interestingly, we did quite a lot of work on the play between Canada and Broadway, and to soften up the make it better actually for Broadway. We we were under no illusions that the humor in Britain is more caustic than it is in Canada, and they don't particularly go for um, guys bickering with each other. You know, in New
Mm.
York, they do, but not in Canada. So some of the bickering didn't go down as well
Oh, really?
as it did
Wow.
in London. Yeah. So we just revisited the script and we tightened it up, added some. It just went through a process of evolution, dramaturgy, and um, and Ian wrote some brilliant new jokes, and it just evolved even better. And that's the version I'm doing now. I think,
Is
yeah,
this
I think
is this
that,
the this right here? Is that pretty much the bones? There we go. Is this the bare bones now, or is this what you're doing at the moment?
I think it is because Ian finalized that before we opened on
Okay.
Broadway, I think. But there were some changes made since then, but not many. But the essence of that is right. Uh, so I'm using the Broadway script. I know that.
And I saw Canada was very lucky that they had like a 6 foot Bruce in front of the
Yeah,
theater.
it was huge. It was bigger than
Oh
six. I think it was about
God, it was, and
10
that
feet or
that's
something.
real a real nice attraction when you're first walking up to the theater, and there's that shark up there. I mean, we
Yeah, yeah,
we got like we had backdrops on Broadway downstairs, in
yeah.
the lobby. But I was like, oh my,
I was hoping that they would they'd get bring that down for Broadway, but you can't put anything on the pavement.
yeah, yeah, please.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Everything else is on the pavement in New York
yeah.
City, as
That's right,
as
including
it
a
is.
lot of scaffolding.
Right. So, I gotta tell you, the social media was really up to par with going on, and I remember the day that the box office opened that they were going to sell tickets for $19.75. And
Yeah,
it's like,
yeah,
oh, okay, and I got to the line, and in between this, I was following with the Shark is Broken on Instagram, and I started, talking to someone, whoever was running it at the time, and I got there 6 o'clock in the morning. I was number 7 online at 6 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, oh, I'm definitely gonna. There's no other idiot that's going to be there that
yeah,
early.
yeah,
And of
yeah,
course,
yeah.
I was the seventh idiot to be there at that time. And we waited till noon because there was a thing that if the first 25 people came, they were going to get a shirt, and so forth. And so I'm taking photos, and I have my license plate. I'm like, here, I'm this, and I have my headphones on, and a guy comes over to me, and he goes, hey, he goes, you got the plate, right? And I'm like, yeah. And it was Seth Greenleaf.
With Seth, right? Yeah,
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 yeah, and I'm like, who the hell is this guy? Not knowing that, Seth was part of the production of bringing the show. And
yeah,
at noon, because you guys were doing a presser, the morning of the opening of the box office, right?
that's
You were
right.
doing
Yeah,
all press,
yeah,
and then finally you guys came, and Ian came in the full Quint costume, and it really was
yeah,
unbelievable. And I'm going to get
yeah.
my ticket, and Seth goes, "Can I grab the plate?" And they took a picture of all three cast members holding my license plate, and it made it into People magazine. So that was such a highlight for me, to have my
I
plate.
think I got a picture of myself wearing that too, actually, with your plate.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I was there, but nobody knows I was there.
I saw you, but you know what? You kept yourself incognito, to be honest with you, because I have video of you guys walking across the street, and
Yeah.
honestly, I was like, "Oh, there's Guy."
Hey, look, I've got some pictures of it's Ian in rehearsal in Brighton
Oh, wow.
using chairs. And let me see. Oh, that's the original Jaws poster.
All right.
And then let me see what I got here from Edinburgh. This was the boys in the other show they were doing in Edinburgh.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's called Guys, Dolls, and Pies. It's the works of Damon Runyon.
Oh, yeah, Damon Runyon.
Um, let me see. Let me see. I'm bringing this up now. There's a lot of other shows. I had a lot of shows up there that year as well.
Well, I went to the show so
So
much
just
that
now
I
I'm getting
actually
onto.
made. If let me see, here we go. I made a pictorial book,
Oh, right.
and it's
Yeah,
from
yeah,
first
of all the
first
times you went.
first preview to closing, and then there's
And
the
did you get closing night as well?
yeah. I got every performance I got. I got the org, and I tell you, my favorite. Oh, here's the
Yeah, yeah. Shark is broken. 5-star
yeah.
reviews.
There's the People magazine. Oh, let me see. There we go.
Oh, yeah, there it is. Yeah.
And then my favorite. I'm so glad they went into the studio and they did that shot. Bless you.
Yeah.
This is so
Yeah, I
iconic to
remember that
compare.
shot.
I mean, so
Yeah.
realistic to what that one was. Just
There we go.
amazing.
Can you see that?
Is that Edinburgh?
That's Edinburgh. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
That's Liam. You see,
Yeah.
do that.
So now, previously we said uh, nothing was recorded, right? Even a lot of for Prosperity, they do record on Broadway. They do record the show. Is there a reason why that show wasn't recorded?
I think it's I don't know, mate. I've got no reason. I've got no idea why it wasn't that particular cast wasn't recorded. But I think the our tour has been the British tour has been recorded.
Yes. Yeah, I think a couple of days ago they did shoot it.
Yeah,
And hopefully it's not for Prosperity. They're actually gonna either stream it or have it come out to the public. Because there's still a lot of people out there. Like I said, I have over 1,300 followers, and there's some people that just can't get to the regions of where it's
that's
playing
true.
at.
That's true.
And the
Yeah.
funny thing about it is that when Broadway ended, I would have lost my house betting that he was going to send it to the West Coast. I thought for sure he would go to California and bring the play there.
Well, we were hoping to do a tour of some of the major cities. We just couldn't get the logistics right. And Ian's got another life as well. So because it was that was the expectation that Ian would be in all of those shows, and he's got two gorgeous children, and they're at school, so he can't be away for that long. That's the
Mm.
bottom line. But the good thing is that we now know that it works without Ian, and so we can create a new version, and that's why I'm here, because the one that I absolutely wanted to do was Martha's Vineyard for the Jaws 50th.
I really wish they would have done it the week of, if they would have done a one-off, you know. I
Yeah,
said now
sadly, there's
we
no
spoke.
theater available
You're
for it.
going to be there, right?
Yeah,
And
I'll be
how
there during the week.
are you going to be there the entire week or?
I'll be there for the whole of Jaws week, and then I go into rehearsal again with the lads, and then we open on the 4th of March, 5th of July.
You have an invitation from me. I'm there from the 21st through the 29th, and
Right.
I'll buy dinner.
Oh, excellent,
All
excellent. You have
right.
to have
So
dinner too. She's coming.
listen, that's what a credit card is for, my man.
That's right. It is.
So
Well, I'll be out
I,
there from the
I'd be
19th.
I'd be happy to share a meal with you.
There we go. We'll do it. We'll do it.
Absolutely. And I have a friend of mine. His name is Timothy Thomas. He does renderings of paintings, and he did for me. Where we go? There we go.
So there you go. Yeah, yeah. Oh, that yes, yeah. Didn't you give that to a
No,
copy of
this
that?
this was this was a one-off. My friend actually
Oh,
did this, and he
wow.
he did a quint on the pulpit. He did of he did for me a Scheider on the pole and the shark fin coming. Yeah, he does a lot. His name is Timothy Thomas, and I post most of his stuff, and he's on because you're on the Shark is Broken fan page now too, right?
Yeah. So when I put an @ and Shark is Broken fan page, it pops up on your feed, and you get to approve the post. Is that correct?
Yeah, well, you can. Well, if you're a member, you can post itself, no problem. But when
Right.
you do something yourself or the Shark is Broken, I add it to the group.
Very good.
So
Very good.
I try to be the go between of to bring it to other people to see it, and that way when the Shark is Broken, the social page is doing something, and someone posts on there that, oh, we were there, it was a great performance, that I go, please join here because I want to have that time capsule.
Yeah.
You know, I really should have done it like the first week. I literally done it like the almost the last week of performances, and it was a struggle. I had about 200 people, and then when the UK thing started, I swear to God, I was getting like 70 people a day that wanted
Right.
to join, which is really nice that it has legs. You know, it shows that the play has legs.
It does. It does. And let me tell you, the Martha's Vineyard show is already selling extremely well. So
You're forcing me to come back to Martha's Vineyard. That's what you're doing.
I absolutely am. You're going to have to come to Martha's Vineyard. And the boys are fantastic. I don't know whether you've read the reviews, but they are getting amazing reviews. Amazing
But
reviews.
I saw you have snippets that you showed their acting, you know, in scenes too, which
Yeah.
is really the smart thing to do. You know, I always
Yeah.
believe that like you can almost piece the Broadway show with all the clips of the reels that they did, and you know, to see how the play
Yeah.
goes along. You know, which is great. Even though it's like maybe 20-second
Yeah.
snippets of a scene, but you still get the heart of what's going on with it.
Well, I think you could drop my three actors into the Broadway show and not even know.
Right, right.
Yeah.
It's
You'd know,
unbelievable.
yeah, they could easily slip in one at a time and make it work. So that's how close my new version is to the Broadway production.
So what's after this for you? Now you have the show tomorrow in Wales. Now anything for the future after going
Yeah,
to
well, I'm working. I've got loads of gigs coming up over the next few months. I've got a show going off to my. I've got a new actor playing Animal Farm, and so he's opening in Edinburgh. I'll go up there to open that. I've got the Richard Burton 41st anniversary of his passing, which is happening in August.
and you did a one-man show of that, didn't you?
I directed a one-man play about it,
Oh, okay.
about Richard, yeah. Um, and trying to put the record straight. And I have written a screenplay about Richard that is in pre-production at the moment, which was about my trip to Switzerland. I drove him to Switzerland in a Mini Cooper,
No.
and so I spent 5.5 weeks with the man and got to know him. So the screenplay is My Week with Richard. That's not the name of it, but it's kind of like My Week with Marilyn, and yeah, it's going to put the record straight about him.
Was he drinking buddies with Richard Harris and Peter O'Toole also?
Oh God,
Oh,
yeah,
I can
absolutely,
only imagine the stories going on at that table.
absolutely. And very famously, they would get together between the matinee and the evening performance on the weekend and drink a bottle of vodka on the Circle Line, which would go all the way around. It would take about an hour and a half to go all the way around the Circle Line, and they'd be ready for the evening show. Total madness.
God bless him. Boy, I tell you,
Yeah,
there was a great
yeah,
story Richard Harris told David Letterman of him and O'Toole. They were filming something and they locked them in their hotels basically because they didn't want them.
yeah,
They needed them for the next day, always to make sure. And of course, they snuck out of a window, went down to the
yeah,
pub down the hill. Got blottoed, and but
yeah.
as true professionals are, they did their job.
Well, Richard did two films with O'Toole, and they couldn't get insurance for the film unless they signed an agreement not to drink on set. So they were there drinking tea. What they didn't know was instead of tea, there was some other substance in those teacups.
Whiskey,
And he also did The Wild Geese with Richard Harris, which was a fun show for
one of my
him.
favorites. Yeah,
Yeah.
phenomenal. Growing up and seeing something like Roger Moore. I mean, what a cast that
Well,
was.
Roger had a clause in his contract that he was never to be filmed running, and he was filmed running, but he wasn't the focus of the film. So it was you can see him running in the background, and it's very funny because he runs with floppy arms. And
Oh,
Uncle Rick was in hysterics when he was telling me this. He says, "Look at the wild geese! Look at the wild geese, and watch Roger Moore in the background." Bloody hysterical. He's got,
so I guess in Bond, he never ran in a Bond movie
no, he just yeah, exactly. He did a lot of kung fu.
and
No,
jumping in cars.
Roger Moore's the loveliest man, just absolutely an absolute gentleman. And you'd never know he was a superstar. I mean, it's easy to say that because you are a superstar. You don't have to behave in a way to behave naturally like him. And Richard was the same. Whenever I was with him, I would just observe him being so gracious and gentle and with people and generous and always sign whatever they came up to him and ask for an autograph. He'd always sign it. Um, and I've seen stars just be brutal with their
Mm.
fans. It's very difficult when you're always being inundated and your privacy is gone and you just want to be left alone. Um, I saw Nicolas Cage do that in a restaurant. He erupted at someone when he just went up and said, "Can I have your autograph?" And brutal it was.
Well, like they say, there's a time and a moment for everything. And if a person's putting up a bowl of spaghetti in their mouth and you come over to them, I mean, like you say, either you wait for them outside or something. It is there's an appropriate way to do it also.
Absolutely, absolutely,
You
there
know,
is, there is.
I say
So
that's what I love about Broadway because no matter what, they have to be on their P's and Q's.
oh yeah,
Especially
they come
at
out
the
utterly
stage
smoking.
door.
Yeah, yeah,
And like I've heard stories about of Kevin Spacey and of Gary Oldman and stuff like that, and I always can say that they were very pleasant people. Broadway. I don't know if I was
yeah.
walking down the street and I happened to bump into them, it might be a different story, but they
We
always
shook hands last night. What's wrong with you now? Yeah,
right, right.
yeah,
And I saw Spacey doing Iceman Cometh.
yeah,
So that's 4 hours, two intermissions. And Tony Danza
yeah.
was also in it, and I swear to God, he looked like death. Like it was draining the life force
Oh,
out of him,
yeah, 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 yeah.
But you commit to something like that. Even Giamatti, Paul Giamatti was in it, and I came up to him and I was a big fan of his also. And I go, Paul, how's it going? He goes, it's killing me. he goes,
Yeah, yeah,
he goes, I love being in it, but it's killing me.
yeah. Well, some plays are like that. That's what's beautiful about the shark. 95 minutes, bing, bing, bing. Bada bing, bada boom.
And a lot of people aren't prepared for that, to be honest with you. A lot of people don't realize if you don't read up on it that there is no intermission, straight, like you say, 90 to 95 minutes, and you're out of there.
Yeah.
And then it's all of a sudden it's either 2:30 or 3:30 in the afternoon. I'm like, wait a minute, we got dinner reservations for 5 o'clock.
Yeah. What are we
That's
going to do? Walk around New York?
right.
Yeah. We're about to be cut off. You know that, right?
Oh, no, I extended.
Oh, did you?
We're fine. We're fine. Yeah, believe me, I got all the kinks out. Yeah, we're good. We're
Going out
good.
with pictures or just audio?
Say it again.
Is this going out with pictures or just
Oh,
audio?
video. No, the way we're talking right now, this is how it's going to be. Yeah,
Cool.
and I'm gonna post it on YouTube, and then from YouTube, it'll be on the site
Excellent. All right.
when it's done. So, anything else?
Well, no, I mean, I'm directing co-directing a musical in Australia. We're hoping it's going to go up in this autumn, and got my movie coming being made next year about
And what's
Richard,
that?
um, the, the the road trip with Richard
Okay.
that
Oh,
was made
okay.
in Italy. Yeah,
And who you
and
have starring in that?
I can't reveal that.
Oh, ooh. Okay. Something juicy
Big
though.
star, big star.
Oh, good, good.
Um, Say again? Oh, well, who are you going to get to play Richard? It's got to be a big star.
Yeah,
It's got to be someone almost as big as he. So,
yeah.
um, and then it's just go around again, keep going,
Well, I forgot.
keep making.
I can't recall the name of the actor, but who he portrayed Cary Grant, and he was just in The White Lotus. His name is escaping me right now. But he did a
Right.
really good version of, he didn't copycat him, but he did a very good version. Did you see that movie?
I haven't seen that. No,
Yeah,
it's an interesting one when you're playing people who've lived and people have very fixed ideas about them, and it must have been that way for Ian playing his dad.
sure.
You know, um, Ian had a good shortcut, of course. He looked spitting image of his dad and the same voice. But when you Yeah, well, I think with someone like Burton, it's the spirit of the character that you're looking to capture, not necessarily the look. You can you can look past the look. It helps, but you can look past the look.
Is is it um is it based upon the man himself, or is
Well, it's
it?
based upon the true story of the trip we took together in a Mini Cooper,
Oh, okay.
and he became very inspirational. I became his young pal for 5 weeks, and we talked about a lot of stuff. It was an amazing, formative time for me, inspirational time for me. The reason I got into the business in the first place,
How old were you then?
really. He died soon after that. I was 19.
Oh, what
I
were
was
you of
19. I wonder
drinking
if I've
age
got
for
a picture
him?
here. No, he wasn't drinking at the time. He was dry.
Oh,
So,
wow.
hey, look, I've just found a picture. I was in Elizabeth's house
Oh, look at that.
in Bel Air, and I picked up a Roscoe, and you can see the Andy Warhol
Yeah,
behind
it's
there,
behind.
and I think that's Oscar Butterfield 8. That's me at the age of
Wow.
what was I then? 24. God,
It looks it's tiny. I've held the Oscar before. It looks they grew it as time went on. It looks like.
that's yeah. They are that big,
Oh,
but they're
there you
very
go.
heavy. Yeah, there you go. And that's the play I was in, The Wonderful World of Waver. Yeah, that was, and there's Elizabeth's trophy cabinet with her two
Oh, that's
Oscars.
fantastic.
Yeah,
Good
she's
old
older.
good to have a Polaroid back then, huh?
Yeah, there's
Yeah,
me dreaming.
I think I might have asked him if I could sleep with that.
And this is my sister pretending to give it to me, pretending to present it to me.
Oh, that's funny. That's great.
Oh, the things we do, eh?
When I met Dreyfus, I said to him, I said, "So where's your Oscar?" And he goes, "It's in my refrigerator." And
He
that's
meant
where
that,
he
did he?
keeps it. Oh, that's another thing I wanted to ask you. Were you there the day he came?
No, I wasn't. I was back
Okay.
in London
Okay.
because he professed to love the play immediately after the show, and he had all those pictures done. And then the interview with him, they goaded him into saying things about it, which I don't think he he really meant.
Well, I seen him. I went to the Beverly. He did a meet and greet, and he did a Q and A, and he was still saying that he wasn't that crazy of the portrayal, even then. So
Yeah,
I
I'm
don't.
sure he wasn't.
Yeah,
I'm sure he
yeah,
wasn't. But yeah, of course, you see yourself being portrayed in a certain way. He was young, remember? He was young
yeah. Well,
when he
listen,
did that, when he made that.
the play is bare bones. Like I said, listen, Robert don't compliment his dad of the way he was with his alcoholism. And Richard was, a young stud in Hollywood, just coming off American Graffiti and getting the Oscar nomination for Duddy Kravitz. And he was a party Hollywood kid.
Did he
At
get nominated for Dudley Kravitz?
He got nominated.
Wow,
Yeah,
he really did break through.
yeah, yeah. And like we said, like we both said previous to this, that your uncle should have probably won for Equus, where he won for Goodbye Girl. But
Yeah,
and we both agree that probably Mr. Holland's Opus was his Oscar performance.
yeah, that was a beautiful performance. I've always liked Richard Dreyfuss as a performer, and he was terrific, especially in Close Encounters. He
Yeah.
was really, really good in that. He's a fabulous, fabulous actor, but not
That's so
Goodbye
let's
Girl.
getting back to that. The lines that you guys brought up towards the end, is anybody going to be caring about this in
Yeah.
50 years? Yeah, and the whole thing about
Do you
dinosaurs.
really think anybody talking about
Oh,
this in 50 years?
it's those lines alone, because you made it so topical of today. It really
Yeah.
it's fantastic. It's fantastic, and you really do get the laughs. Because, like I said, I saw it 10 times, so I got to witness it with a different audience every
Mm.
single time. I was like almost the ambassador. Because I tell you, the Golden Theater was a great theater for that play to
For
be
that
in.
show, yeah.
Between
Yeah.
the mezzanine and the way it sloped down, so everybody was able to see.
Yeah.
Everything was a good seat there, and I'm
Yeah.
like, here it comes, like, because I knew it was
Yeah.
coming.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
For
and
me, the
the,
best seats are in the Mez because you really get the feel of the ocean around the boat.
right, right, and it
And
was fun. And it was fun, like, to see, like, sometimes they would hit the bottle and the bottle would fall,
yeah,
or they didn't do this time, or sometimes there was a line that they didn't say, like, I was so zoned in on the play then, because I mean, listen, after the
well,
eighth,
you're gonna have to come up and see it in North Shore.
I'm gonna have to. I'm gonna take that. It's a 5 hour trip, but what stinks is May 11th, the last performance.
Of this batch, yeah.
Yeah.
They open Waitress next week.
Okay.
So they're yeah, so this batch. And then we were hoping to go into Hyannis between the two shows, but the theater's not ready, so we can't do it. So the boys are on hiatus for a few weeks, and then we get back in July and end of June.
Now, after the run in Martha's Vineyard, is there a future for it with you to
We
continue?
we believe there will be, yes. We can't confirm anything at this point, but we are hopeful of quite a big future for this production.
And now that Ireland is going to be the last area for Ian, is there talks in the future of
Yeah.
you guys collaborating again with this?
Well, we haven't discussed anything. I think Ian's very much let me get to the end of this and need some time down
And
because
take a
this is a
break
big
again.
the 16-week tour. It's not just like you're sitting down and you're going to work every day in London.
Right.
You are literally living in a different place, away from your family. It's tough going.
Yeah.
It's tough going.
Well, he was here. Well,
And
you guys were here. When did you start pre-production in New York?
what you mean for the Broadway show or for this
Yes.
show?
Were
What
you
I'm doing
guys
now.
here starting in June or May?
I auditioned for the guys in March.
Oh, okay. So you've been here since March, and then ran it to the court.
No, I auditioned them and went home
Oh,
and then
okay.
came up for the rehearsals.
Okay. So when did you start locking it down on Broadway? When did you start doing rehearsal?
On Broadway, we had a 5 week, 4 week rehearsal period and 1 week of tech, and then we had 21 previews, 3 weeks of previews.
Oh, so not yeah, that not much of a runtime for you guys to start it off to start the preview then.
Well, for musicals need longer previewing.
Well, because of the dancing
You know,
sequences
there's
and
a lot more at stake,
right.
and they need to perfect it before they, let the audience in. And this was only a three-hander. We didn't really need any more than that. In fact, I think they
Okay.
were chomping at the bit to open by the time we did. Um, so we ran our full 18 weeks, and we were very happy with that. We could have stayed longer,
That's
but
what
we
I
all,
wanted to
all
ask
had
you also
jobs to
because
fall
there
back.
was the date of November 19th, I think was the last performance. Let me reference my
That's right.
pictorial.
Yeah.
Uh
Yeah.
I think it was the 19th. But
That
you
would have
also
been.
had the with the option of staying longer, right?
The option was always open to us, but the availability was the difficult thing. We just weren't available to extend really, and
Oh,
Alex had another job lined up right away anyway. So
okay.
it doesn't matter because we can always. There is an idea that we might even bring my version down off Broadway if we can. So you never know.
Okay.
Play again in New
Okay.
York, great fun.
That'd be fun.
Yeah, it would be. New York was my father's stomping town. He was born and raised in Brooklyn and went to Juilliard and worked at the New York Philharmonic under Bernstein when Bernstein was the assistant.
Wow.
So Bernstein would have conducted him for a few years, and then he left New York, went to Chicago, I think about 1951 or something like that, and then ended up conducting the Paramount Symphony Orchestra for the movies
Oh, fantastic.
in LA. Yeah, that's
Uh,
how he met my mum.
and what can you recall what films he scored?
I honestly, 'cause my father died when I was 10, so I never got to ask him actually.
Oh,
But my
okay.
mother worked on a film called I Want to Live, which won an Oscar.
Susan Haywood.
Susan Hayward and Walter Wanger was the producer of that. So my mother worked as a right hand. She worked as a continuity girl, but also she became Walter Wanger's right hand for a while, which was really interesting. And he sent her off with the most beautiful letter of recommendation. From Walter Wanger, Cleopatra, I Want to Live, and yeah. Anyway, they got married. They met and got married within 3.5 months, and then he left Hollywood and came to London,
Wow.
and hence my family.
I know we discussed it before, but we didn't discuss it at this moment. When was the first time you saw Jaws, and how old were you?
I was I think I saw it the year after it came out, or a year and a half after it came out. So that
So
would have been
76, 70, oh,
I would have
77?
been yeah, I definitely saw it in 77. So I was 15. I actually came to America for the first time when I was 15 in July, and I found myself in where is it? San Francisco, Oakland, and I was taken to see Star Wars.
Oh, wow.
And then I had my 16th birthday in LA, and my uncle, who worked for 20th Century Fox, got me a ticket to the premiere, a Gros Mouse Chinese of Star Wars. And I waited until after I'd seen it to tell him I'd already
And the
seen it.
cat, and we were there with the cast.
When they put the foot and handprints
Yeah.
in.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's fantastic. And you saw all that going on?
Yeah, I saw all that going on. And there was Elizabeth with her little hands, her,
Yeah.
her footprints and little hands in there. And Marcello Mastroianni's in there. So Marcello Mastroianni, the great Italian actor, was my father's second cousin. Um, they didn't know each other, but Richard Burton had done two films with him and said, "Hey, my sister's married to a Mastroianni." And because my real name is Mastroianni, not Masterson, I
Mm.
anglicized it because I was told to by my agent in Hollywood, and I
That
wish I
goes on
had.
a lot.
I wish I hadn't. Um, my uncle, who's one of those hard Brooklyn guys, he says to me, "Who are you? I don't know you. Knock again. I'll see if I open the door." You know, it was uh, it was a funny moment, but yeah, it was. It's an interesting dichotomy in me because I'm half American, half British, but I've grown up and was educated in Britain and I sound British. So I really identify as Welsh more than anything else. I went to a
Mm.
Welsh university. I'm surrounded by Welsh people, first language. Um, and my father died when I was 10, so I really didn't have much of an American influence. I just had a big American family across the pond, and who I eventually saw for the first time in 1977.
When did you leave to go to the UK? How old are you?
Oh, I was born in Britain.
Oh, okay. So
My
that yeah.
father married and went
Oh,
over
okay.
to London
I
to
was saying I
start a
can't
new
see
family.
a 10-year-old talking like, "Hey, ma,
Hey,
where's the
ma.
meatballs?" And then you,
Yes.
excuse me, love, I can't.
Oh, it was like that in our family, when the whole family got together and little Guy was there at the table. You go, "Hey, Guy, you want more meatballs? You want a bit of sausage?" And I go, "Yes, please."
I tell
How
I
do you
tell
like this kid?
I tell people I was raised Sunday mornings was my mom was cooking the sauce with
Oh, yeah,
sauce is marinade with spaghetti.
yeah,
Gravy for us is with the meat inside of it, the
that's
meatballs, the
right. Yeah,
sausage, you know. And before my mother would make all the fried meatballs, and she would give me
mm.
three, nothing on it, with grated cheese, sit me in front of the TV to watch Abbott and Costello. That was my
There
Sunday
you go.
ritual.
There you go. Yeah. Well, my father had the Mastroianni's had a big recipe for the sauce, and I do remember my father making it. It would take 8 hours. I now have the recipe. In fact, I've got it right here. There is the recipe from
Ain't that something? Do you
my
make it still?
father's. I haven't made it for years. I just don't have time. It takes 8 hours.
All
I
you do
boil
is
it
leave it
down.
on. You listen. You make it. You put it on the pot for simmer, and that's it. And you walk away from it.
I know, but I do say it's just wonderful. But I do seek out proper Italian ragu, and whenever I go, so I think the closest I've had to it, I think, was Carmine's.
Okay. Listen, you send me that recipe. My wife will make your father's sauce for you,
That would be
and
great.
we'll freeze it, and you'll be able to bring it home.
Yeah, but you gotta have the sausages as well, the proper Italian sausages.
We go
And
listen. We go to Little Italy in the Bronx. We get our sausage. Trust me.
yay, I
We
tell you, I can't wait. You know, when I went there in 1989, I wanted to find where Dad was raised, and I took a cab out, and the guy said, "Is this where you want to stop?" And I said, "Yeah." He said, "Well, you can't get out." I said, "What do you mean I can't get out?" He said, I'm not letting you out."
the neighborhood.
Yeah, he wouldn't let me out where my father's house was. Um, and he turned around and drove me back into the city.
No kidding.
But it's all been gentrified since
Of
then.
course. I,
That was sort of Bonfire of the Vanities time.
so let me. So my house in Brooklyn. I lived in Park Slope, and uh, we sold it to the lawyer that was doing the deal for $80,000. Okay, and this is 1994. It just sold a year ago, $1.3 million dollars.
Yeah, yeah. Same thing with the house that my mother and father moved into in London, and Richard helped them buy it at the time for seven, and changed hands a couple of months ago for 2.5 million. Insane.
Insane.
It's insane.
Eh,
But that's
you-
Richard. Richard was amazing because he did that for all his brothers and sisters. He bought them all the houses they lived in, and then gave them back the deed with my mother because they technically weren't brother and sister. My mother was technically his niece, but there was only 3 years between them, and they grew up together as brother and sister.
Mm.
So he bought that house for them, and my father paid a mortgage to his holding company, and but it was nothing really. So Richard Richard enabled that whole generation of our family to that their children would thrive and have a better opportunity. And I certainly benefited from that.
That's
And
nice that he can think that way for his family, you know.
absolutely, and he
Yeah.
did, and he still does. There's still a legacy out there, and Elizabeth too, unbelievable philanthropist.
Yes.
You know, the amount that she gave away to the AIDS charities, she was a huge mouthpiece for that, and then gave away everything at the end. You know, she said to all her children, she said, "You can have one piece of jewelry, and and that was it." And so they got to pick a piece of jewelry that they wanted, just as a memento. And
Yeah.
all the big stuff was auctioned, and the money went to her charities.
That's amazing.
Good on her. Yeah, good on her. Now I have to dash, but
Okay.
it's great to talk to you.
Thank you so much, Guy. Seriously, I
Pleasure.
really appreciate your time, and this one went really, really well. And I guess I'll see you in Martha's Vineyard upcoming.
Indeed, and please tell all your wonderful Jaws fans I will see them in Martha's Vineyard. I know it's not easy to get tickets and all of that's up there, but but look out for it. This show will travel, I promise.
Absolutely. And you can follow Guy. You're on Instagram, Guy Masterson, and on Facebook too.
Yes, I am, and I always post in the Shark is Broken things. So yeah, follow me.
Great. Thanks.
Super,
Cheers to
super.
you, mate. I really appreciate it. It
Yes,
was awesome. Have a great day.
sure. Take care.
Bye bye.
Bye, bye, bye.